Hello, friends, and welcome to Goblin Talks. Today, we're going to talk about playing to win. This is a topic that you can see talked about by many other people on the internets in reference to all sorts of different sports, activities, video games. It's a concept that's kind of interesting. What does it mean to go in and play to win? There's playing for fun. I like to play for fun, but then there's playing to actually try and win. It's like we've got money on the line, or I'm playing in a tournament, I'm playing for bragging rights. There's lots of reasons you might want to play to win. There's lots of reasons to play for fun. I like playing games of, say, chess or table tennis with friends. Not in the let's see who's better, but let's just play some games. It'll be fun. That is one way of interacting with a competitive game. Maybe it's more fun than playing to win, but when you find yourself in a case where you're playing in a tournament or actually in a situation where you want to play to win, I think there's some things that are universal between all games, all competitive activities that you can take into that game and say, these are the things I'm going to try to accomplish. So I'll try and give you some juggling examples here, but I think the main point here is when you play to win, you play to find a weakness in your opponent regardless of what the game is. That always should be your initial strategy is figure out what my opponent's good at and what my opponent's not good at. Clearly, if I want to win, I want to avoid letting them do what they're good at and focus on doing what I'm better at. So you can think of it like juggling. Okay. So if you're looking at another juggler and you're having a competitive juggle off, I don't know what that is exactly, but let's say somebody's scoring you. You're going to look at your opponent and say, okay, well, what do they do well? And you might see that they do a lot of Mills Mess tricks. Okay? So you see them crossing their hands a lot, and you're like, oh, wow, you're way better at that than I am. Or maybe they're not, but let's just say for argument, you're way better at this whole crossing your hands thing. So at that point, you have to ask yourself, what are they not so good at? Well, what do I not see them doing much of? Oh, well, I like doing shape-shifting tricks. And they're not doing any of those. What happens if I do some of these? Well, now I'm taking an advantage. Now I'm taking advantage of a weakness I've identified in their general game plan. The general game plan of my juggling opponent was, I'm really good at crossing my hands, I'm going to do lots of that. So my game plan might be, I want to do something completely different than that I think is more effective. You can look at that for any game you play, whether that's League of Legends. If you're playing in a lane against somebody who clearly has better spacing than you might want to focus on trying to have better reactions. If you're playing table tennis, you might find that somebody's backhand's better than yours, but your forehand's superior. Okay, cool. Well, then I want to play to my forehand and try and make them use their backhand. If you're playing chess, you might find that somebody's usage of their rooks is better than yours, but your usage of your bishops is more superior, far superior. Okay, you want to focus on that. And I think that's absolutely the key to playing to win, is identifying a weakness and using it. There is a follow-up here, and this is addressed a lot in the fighting game community. There is no such thing as being cheap when you're playing to win. Anytime somebody says that is cheap, that is an incorrect statement. Games are designed with lots of rules and lots of ways to take advantage of them. Anything that's, quote, cheap, pretty much always will have a counter to it. So if you find yourself playing to win and you say, oh, my opponent's just playing cheap, that's not a good answer. Hitting somebody's backhand repeatedly is not cheap. It's a strategy. It's a tactic, at least. Maybe it's a strategy too. But that doesn't make it cheap. Identifying a weakness and using it to your advantage is not cheap. So when you sit down to play competitively, it's worth thinking about that. How do I find a weakness in my opponent and how do I exploit it? I think if you want to play to win, that has to be your primary strategy. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll push my subscribe button, and that way I can win more. It's not cheap. Well, it's cheap for you financially, but it's not cheap as in a bad tactic, so you should push my subscribe button, and we can hang out again soon and we'll do some more juggling. Have a good one.